Joining us, everyone. We've been bringing you updates on the election here in Lagos. Are Nigeria's local councils truly functioning as a third tier of government, or are they mere administrative extensions of the state? How does limited autonomy affect governance accountability and service delivery at the grassroots? Now, these and more are the going to be our outlook on the program today. And then we're also going to delve into the election taking place today and just get update from our reporters across the field. Joining us today are two distinguished voices who are joined by Comrade Ayodele Adewale, former chairman Amuwo Odofin Local Government, Lagos State, and Dr. Kalejaiye Paul. He's a member, Federal House of Representatives, Jeremy Fellow, the Federal Constituency. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Now, as the Lagos decides today, we ask, will votes at the local level truly count? And what future awaits grassroots governance in Nigeria? That's my first question to Comrade Adewale. I mean, you follow the polls so far. It started late. And then you also see that in some local governments, if a distribution was still on, if materials were still on at about 10, 30 thereabouts, I just want to get your thought on how this process has gone so far.
Well, those are logistical challenges, but what matters most is that the process did commence and people turned out to cast their votes. I was one of the early voters. I went there, casted my vote, and my mom went, and so many other people also went, and some family members and all of that. And while going around to also see what was happening, I saw people coming out, and I've been following your station. I saw the governor of Lagos State cast his vote. I've seen the wife, and I've also seen a lot of Lagosians go out to cast their votes. So we thank God that so far we have a very peaceful process and participatory process that is going on.
But how participatory is, Dr. Paul, that when you look at the number of people, last election, it was, and that was 2021, it was about 11% of about 6.5 million people. But there are concerns that this election might even be worse when you look at the number of people that have turned out to vote. What do you make of the turnout of voters?
Yeah, thank you very much. You must have observed, we were shaky startup. But then the election picked up speedily after the shaky startup. And then I do not agree with you that the population of voters in this election will be less than what we had in the previous local elections. From what I've seen on the field, I've also casted my vote. I did that just before coming here. My thumbprint is here. So, and I've gone round two before I cast my vote, and I see that, yes, the turnout obviously is going to be better than what we had in the previous election. Let me tell you, we are running this election as our own party. We're running the election as if we're doing a national election. We've done so much of our campaigns, so much of our mobilizations, and we're quite sure that, pessimists will be disappointed. We're optimistic that the turnout that you are seeing when the votes are counted will definitely depict what Nigerians or what Lagosians are preparing for in 2027.
It's not about depicting in terms of maybe who wins or who doesn't win. It's about the actual number. It's if you have, it doesn't matter who wins this election, but if you're only decided by a very minute figure in terms of when you compare to the overall voting population, that should be what should raise the concern. And why are people not showing, especially because this is the most proximate arm of government. It's not the presidential government, it's the presidential election or the gubernatorial election that should be more important. This is the one that we should all troop out for, because this is the one that is closer to us. And I just wanted to get your reaction to that. I mean, the numbers should be concerning, no matter how who wins or who doesn't win.
Well, it's all about civic responsibility, and that means that people should take their responsibility more important. Your medium and several other mass media have done their best towards educating people on the need for them to come out. over time, civil society have also been speaking to people that it's important for you to be part of the process that will produce the leadership that you truly want, right? And people must just have to give time. You understand? Must have to give time to be part of the process, to come out and perform their responsibilities.
But because you've mentioned the media, you've mentioned the civil society groups. But what about the political parties? Because they are the ones who seem to be falling short. Because they're the ones who need the vote, but yet they're the ones who fall short of actual voter education. I mean, that is usually left to the electoral body to do, and then the media and the civil society. But the ones who should actually mobilize are not doing so much voter education.
Well, I do not agree with you that the politicians are not doing enough voter education. The process of election is very clear. When the agenda for elections are set, various political parties, turn out their manifesto, their programs, and then they move from place to place. In terms of my own local government specifically, we've been doing not only rallies, not only street, movement in terms of, educating people, sensitizing the people. We have also been doing house-to-house campaign. I can tell you that even as at yesterday evening, we were still going from house to house because there has been a ban on open rallies. So I do not think that the politicians are falling short. And like it's been observed, you cannot force people to go out and vote, no matter how well educated people are. It becomes their responsibility to perform their civic responsibility. And it's so sad that the wise who refuses to rule and has nothing to say about those who govern him will suffer the reign of idiots. What touches all must be debated by all. When you fail to partake and you come to blame people for bad governance, then you have yourself to blame. Anybody who wants to take power is like taking life out of you, because his policies or our policies will affect your lifeline. It will determine how far you can go. It will determine how much you can reach. If you have a bad government in the local system, it's worse than even having a bad government in the national government, because it is the closest to you. Everybody can work within the parameters of his house to the local council and then lay their complaint. And I can tell you in Lagos State, we've done well in terms of local administration. I can say specifically that most of our inner roads are tarred, most of our streets are littered, most of our people are no longer suffering from problems of water that they used to do. So if government is performing their responsibility and the people do not want to take part, it's sad. But I also know that contrary to what the perception might be, because perception can be stronger than belief, that this election is going to put up a very low turnout in terms of percentile rating of the total number of population, the total number of registered voters, and what we will do. But I can tell you that it will definitely, in terms of percentage rating, be better than previous elections. So it's an evolving thing. We'll keep on evolving, we'll keep on learning, and people will continue to also get more educated. So I don't think we should lose hope. I think we should be optimistic. But more than anything else, we should appeal to the civil populace to take more interest in those who govern them.
I know that you are optimistic about the figures, but as we speak, there are observers and civil society groups that are already auditing this election. Any moment now, we'll see the figures and then we'll come back to it. But I wanted to, come to you. Some will say that there are two issues here. One of them is the perceived, idea that, look, these elections are not free and fair anyway, in the sense that, look, the ruling party is always the one who takes all of the seats in every state. So why should I bother myself? That's there. Then there's also the idea of the impact that local governments have on, their immediate community. And so people do not feel, in fact, they still look at the governor and the president. I mean, it's quite sad that even in our own country, all we talk about is President Tinubu, when you're supposed to be talking about your local government chairman. And so that perhaps that's the reason why people don't also turn up for elections, to vote, local government elections to vote.
You see, perception at times are not readily right, at times. Even if I perceive that someone is going to hurt me, I think the best I can do is protect myself. So from your narrative of perception, according to what you've said, people within that jurisdiction that hold strongly to that perception should have mobilized themselves very well. And I take you back to the military era. Yes, that was very glaring that the military were not going to go, right? But the people were determined that we need to push them out, right? Some of us were in the university and we aligned with the pro-democracy activists. Some people were fighting from abroad. We were fighting from within. We were on the street throwing tear gas. They were throwing tear gas, we were throwing it back. We knew we could be shot dead. Some of us were shot dead, but we did not stop. So I'm taking you along that perception. Even if that should be, that was the case, then the people there will mobilize themselves and put a stop to it by electing someone they feel will take them forward. Not just to sit at home and continue to relax and hoping that something will come, from the spiritual realm. You just have to walk the talk, right? Now, on the other side, you talk about the performance. In Lagos State right now, if you look across board, you will see that the local government in Lagos, so many have outperformed some of our imagination. You will see some putting up structures for medical facility, and you look at it, these are big structures that can accommodate a lot of numbers of people. Many of them are creating roads, new roads. Some of them are creating more jobs, right? Engaging the youth and to give them an opportunity for them to grow. And in terms of security, a lot of them have also taken security very importantly, using community policing structure as a system to complement what the federal and the state government are doing. If you look at some states where the government or the governors have refused those local government to operate, you cannot compare their development with that of Lagos. The Lagos experiment is a world-class experiment where you see local government utilizing their funds appropriately and pushing forward to making life become more meaningful. That is not to say that we've gotten to El Dorado. They should do more. And I want to believe.
I actually was going to say that because I know that some people will disagree with you in terms of, yes, some chairpersons have outperformed others. There are others who really people will tell you, well, we do not feel the impact of this. In fact, we do not even know if we'll have a local government chairperson.
If you listen to me carefully,
in this
if you listen to what I said most. I didn't say all of them. Right? I won't come here to tell you all of them. Like I also posited lastly, that this coming administration will take the benchmark higher to what we have seen prior.
Let me ask you, because one of the landmark achievements of this administration, which is the President Bola Tinubu administration, is the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy, and that there was unanimous rejoicing across the country, even amongst the opposition camp. But we've seen a setback in terms of implementation. 1 year after, nothing has happened, and it would seem that the executive that went to Supreme Court to seek interpretation of that section of the Constitution is now reluctant to also implement it.
Well, like you have said, the Supreme Court judgment has suffered some setback. That's the reality. But then, because we're in democracy, even the Supreme Court judgment, it has mandated certain things to be done at the local authorities, also created some lacunas in terms of implementation. The law is always there. But when it comes to implementation, it brings up some challenges. And those challenges may not necessarily have been addressed by the judgment. And that's why there are misinterpretations about judgment of some courts of competent jurisdiction. Sometimes people interpret it to suit their whims and caprices. But I'm telling you, as a lawmaker, we're already taking steps to ensure that that Supreme Court judgment is legitimate, legitimized further than where it is in terms of studying the various lacunas that exist within the judgment and trying to clear the hurdles and what have you. So we have started debate. We have started the process of lawmaking, process of amending some part of the Constitution. For instance, I give it to you that yes, you say local government autonomy exists. You also have the independence of the various states federating units. And then in one aspect of the Constitution, you make the local government as a creation of the state. And then if it's a creation of the states, then what happens to the Constitution of Nigeria that created some 700 something local government? So there are sometimes some contradictions in the law. And the job of lawmakers is to study the various contradictions and amend the Constitution appropriately to cater for such loopholes. But I can tell you that going forward, the law will be implemented in full sweep because we know it's very germane to grassroots development. We can no longer turn the local authorities as an appendage of the state. They must enjoy some level of autonomy, but understand that autonomy can never be absolute. Where your own autonomy begins is where the other person's own ends. Where your own ends is where the other person's begin. So all of this we must study, and in the coming amendments that we're doing in the National Assembly, most of those lacunas will be addressed. That does not to say that even if you amend the Constitution today, we're going to solve all of the problems. And like somebody would say, the day the law is absolutely made and there is no need for new laws, then there will be no need for an assembly, whether state or national. So the day there is no more work to do, then there will be no life. So because of continuity in life, there must be errors corrected, amended, until when we keep up. So for me, yes, it has suffered some setbacks, but then it will not be perpetual.
But is this really about amending the Constitution? Whilst people will say, look, that's very important, we need to state it clearly. I mean, a lot of things have to be clarified in the Constitution. But I mean, this also looks like the governors themselves are pushing back, and that at that level, no matter what you put in the Constitution and whatever act or whatever bill, if the governors do not have the political will to implement that law to the latter, and then the way elections are also conducted, that nothing is going to happen. The local governments are going to will continue to suffer a political an identity crisis.
It's a question of law. It's just a question of law, and it's about the people. As long as there is a little hole, right, in the Constitution that allow for such perfidy, they will hinge on to that. You must not forget that the Nigerian Constitution gives powers to state assembly to create local government. Now, in those laws also, it gives them some certain powers to override some things. And that is what the president has gone to change. First, the autonomy, get your financial autonomy. The second is to take the local government creation out of the state and make it stand autonomous. By the time you do that, there is no how a government or a governor can tamper with their creation or tamper with their funding or what have you, right? And I think that's work in progress.
If for example, is it still the state independent electoral commissions that also conduct elections? And those commissions, when a governor gets into office today, the first thing he does is to dissolve the commission and set up a new one. Put the people he feels that he's comfortable with, in those commissions. And most times, those who run, maybe you're looking at me, I know you're probably thinking Lagos State is different, but we're not talking Lagos State.
No,
we're talking Nigeria.
I'm trying to understand your thought, and I'm speedily keep processing an answer.
Yes, and so you also find that it is sometimes the governor who says, these are the people. In some states, it's the approval of the governor that a person will run as a local government chairman. And so in that regard, is there any sense of autonomy even with laws?
The governor does make those laws. The House of Assembly does. That was why I was looking at you, right? Now, before those laws are made, they call for people's involvement.
I have to put you on hold. I've been told, our correspondent is standing by, Bimbo Agbebi, to give us updates from the field. Bimbo, tell us where you are at the moment and give us update, on the process in terms of voter turnout and the ease of accreditation and voting.
All right, Precious. I'm presently at Dairy Farm Primary School, and this is Ward F. At this particular polling unit, at this particular ward, rather, we have about 4 polling units. We have polling units 1, 2, 3, and 0, 4, 5. And as you can see behind me, not much activity is happening at the moment. Behind me, those are officials of LASEC sitting there, and voters, of course, have been walking in here to exercise their franchise, and they are leaving almost immediately. So not much activity is happening. Of course, the voting process is still going on, and they're expecting that more voters will come in and, of course, carry out their civic responsibility. But then let me tell you that earlier today, voting and accreditation and voting started quite early, a few minutes past 8, across most parts of Agege and Orile Agege, local government area. But then what we experienced was that we have in some of the polling units we visited, we had, of course, voter turnout, I would say, was fair at some of the polling units we visited, while at other places, of course, we had voter apathy. Also, we had light showers earlier today, but of course, that did not stop the process. Voters kept coming in spite of the light showers, to exercise their franchise. And so far, it's been peaceful. From what interviews I had with some of the voters, it's been peaceful. It's been going on well at most of the polling units we visited earlier. We had a Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Mudashiru Obasa, who also exercised his franchise at polling unit 019 at Ward E. That's in Orile Agege earlier, and he described the exercise as peaceful as well. He also commended, the conduct of the process by LASEC officials. So as I speak, not much activity is going on. As you can see, those are LASEC officials waiting for more voters, to come in. And then in a short while, I'll be stepping out of here to, see what's going on at other polling units. But so far, people have been coming out at some polling units, while at other places we had voter apathy. But in all, it's been peaceful across the places I visited at Agege local government area earlier today. Precious.
All right, thank you so much, Bimbo, for that update. Corresponding live for us there at Agege here in Lagos. But let's also now get update from our senior correspondent, Solomon Ajuzogu, who's live for us in Ojuelegba to bring us update. Solomon, Ojuelegba is perhaps one of the busiest places in Lagos. Give us update from there in terms of, again, voter turnout. It has a very teeming young population as well. What are you also noticing in terms of the age group, of people who are coming to vote?
From Ojuelegba here, if you are an ardent listener of Fela music, this is where motor they come from left, motor they come from right, and then they jam each other. But the vehicles that come from everywhere in such a chaotic manner, they are all parked under the bridge of Ojuelegba here. There is no vehicle coming from left or right. It's a very quiet day at Ojuelegba here, where I am standing in Ward C precisely. Musafejo Ojuelegba Ward C, polling unit 032, where you have 148 registered voters. Well, if you are coming from the stadium, it's on your right, but if you are coming from Abauti Barracks, is to my left here. That's the Musafejo Ojuelegba Ward C polling unit here, where 148 people are expected to vote, all of them here. And it is strategic that the LASIEC has brought these votes, has brought this polling unit to a place where you expect to see plenty people during the week. On ordinary days, when election is not holding, you know that this is a packed place. So it is one of the wards here where you have 29 polling units in all the Yaba-Oju-Elegba axis. And here, the people have been coming to vote, but then for the 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes that we have been here, we have not seen people come to vote, even though so far we've seen some of the ballot papers inside the ballot boxes where they have voted before we came in. 148 in total is the number you expect to see here in the end, or total registered voters here. So one significant thing you would also find out about the election is that from one local government to the other, the ballot papers appear to be customized. In Ogudu, the Koshofe local government area, where we visited much earlier in the day, you have 7 parties on the ballot. Here at Musafejo, Yaba-Oju-Elegba, you have 5 parties, 5 political parties on the ballot. And it will appear that the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission decided to print the ballot papers based on entries by the political parties for the candidates in each of the local governments, in each of the wards, and all of them. So you go to some other local government and we have more political parties on the ballot. In some cases you have fewer than 5 in some local government. So what you see basically is customized on a need-buy basis, according to LASIEC, as we have seen here. So we it's pretty peaceful here in Oju-Elegba. You will expect that with all the chaos that Oju-Elegba is known for, that it will be chaotic here, but it is not chaotic. It's peaceful. The police officer here is having a field day, just watching. He has not had so much to worry about the things happening here. And the electoral officers, the polling clerk, and the other officer, they are also taking their time waiting. I spoke with them earlier, and they had told me off camera that initially in the morning the people didn't show up, but as the day wore on, as we got into the afternoon, many of them started coming. That's what accounts for the number of people that have voted so far here. But it's been peaceful so far in Ward C, polling unit 032 in Oju-Elegba. All
right, Solomon, I mean, there are a lot of songs about Oju-Elegba. You're right about that one. But I wanted to ask you, I see people moving around. Are those the people who are coming to vote, or that people have started moving around even before the restriction of movement ends?
You know, sometimes when we make rules and we make laws and we create restrictions, whether it's for sanitation purposes or for election purposes, there will be some deviant people who will break the law. Well, I guess it's moving closer to the roundup of the election, or the roundup of the elections. We are beginning to see some people moving around, some vehicles, even though not in large numbers. One significant thing is that you will expect that in this sort of elections, which is the most important elections, if you will agree with me, it is the tier of...
Stay ahead with the biggest news stories. Go beyond the news headlines. Experience impactful investigations. Enjoy.
I mean, it became the pastime today for those who don't have anything to do, because this is just 1 year after the Supreme Court announced the fiscal autonomy of the local government. And this is an important landmark judgment, a watershed in this country, where hitherto you've had states controlling the local government, controlling the funding of the local government, telling them how to spend their money. Now the highest court in the land has made a pronouncement concerning this, that the local governments are now autonomous fiscally, and so anyone who is coming to become the chairman, the councillor at any level at the local government level now has a lot more to do, because to whom much is given, much is required. Now, the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, spoke to us about that earlier today when he cast his vote in his ward at the polling unit at Elizabeth Fowler Memorial Nursery and Primary School. You can take a listen to that.
I think perhaps because people take it for granted, they don't understand fully the importance of the local government elections. In some climes, this is even more important than any other election. So we need to continue to sensitize our people. We need to continue to educate them about the importance of the grassroots governance. Well, first of all, the ruling was something that was welcomed by everybody throughout the length and breadth of Nigeria. It's the execution of that ruling and implementation of that ruling that we're still trying to put dot the I's and cross the T's. And I believe in a matter of time we will realize full autonomy. There cannot be effective governance without full autonomy, and that's what we're working towards. The Supreme Court has made a pronouncement. The Supreme Court is the supreme court of the land, and its word is law. So I'm sure, in the nearest future, the full autonomy will be realized by the local governments.
All right, thank you so much, Solomon Ajuzuga, senior correspondent live for us at Ayodele there, giving us update. Quite commendable on the part of last year, the customized ballot paper. But we also heard from the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, who is also a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, speaking to the need for sensitization of voters, not just in Lagos, but across Nigeria. And when it comes to local government elections, saying it is the most important of all elections. He also spoke to the issue of the local government autonomy that was, interpreted by the Supreme Court, saying that they are still dotting the I's and crossing the T's when it comes to the implementation, that there is no going back. There has to be full implementation for the local government. And those are some of the sound bites there. But I'm back in the studio with my guest. I interrupted you, comrade, just before we had our correspondents give us updates.
Yeah, you were saying that I was looking at you and all that, and I was just smiling. What I was actually looking at was that the state government don't make laws. The parliament does. What the state governor can do is send a bill to the parliament to look at it with the hope that it becomes law. The parliament also cannot readily turn it to law. They still have to call the people to look at this bill and discuss about it. Now, in the process of discussion, people have the opportunity to come either to rework that bill to suit them, right, or condemn it. So they have the opportunity, but when they don't come forward.
But comrade, I wasn't even talking about the laws. I was talking about
the process
of picking candidates for local government elections.
You said two things, right? We were discussing about the Supreme Court judgment and all.
Yes, and then he was talking about amending the constitution.
Yes, you were also asking how come the state government, some state governors were still holding on to them, and I was positing that there should be a structure where local government stand autonomous. Financial autonomy must be there, and physical autonomy must also be there. In the local government, you have the parliament. They also have a judicial structure. And you were talking that they should have an electoral body. It's possible.
No, I was saying that as long as the state independent electoral commissions, conduct these elections, and they are usually, they're under the control of the state government. And control, I know that you might not be comfortable with that, but that's the case, in most of the states. And then if you have that, because can you have full autonomy? My question is, without the political autonomy, the governor is the leader of the party in his state, who runs for elections most times, in fact, in almost all the states, is also, the governor most times have to be comfortable. Again, loyalty has to come in. And then when you have that kind of situation where you pick someone who is loyal to you to run for election and the person wins, no matter what the person, is going to listen to you, no matter what happens. And it's happening now in those states where it's even the local government chairmen who are rejecting the autonomy themselves and not even the governors because of loyalty.
Well, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. But what I will say is that let the people take more interest in lawmaking, because like I said earlier, it's a question of law. One day is a vent for any governor to hold on to in order to contravene whatever that is coming. Then you can't hold that person, too hard on it, because they will come with their own argument. Okay, take for instance the governor of Anambra. I saw when he was pushing his argument that X, Y, Z, he need to coerce them to do X, Y, Z.
And he set up another legislative bill in his own state.
You understand?
And now you, as a local government, sorry to interrupt you, you have to, there is now a joint account in that bill as well. And so, that's another way to circumvent the law.
Now, they drew that from the Constitution that gave them that provision. So that provision must be changed. You understand? And that's why I believe the president went for interpretation at the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled fairly that nobody should touch the funds. The funds be administered by the local government helmsmen themselves, right? We're not talking about the holistic autonomy on its own, right? The National Assembly should also take a leap forward to give them total autonomy, total physical autonomy that will be all-encompassing, which also will capture the electoral body that will be created for local government elections, so that your fears would have been removed and the people can have more trust.
The concerns of Nigeria.
The concerns as
but let me bring you in, Dr. Kalejaiye, because you mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to bring that back up, which is some of the conditions that were set by the panel, interagency panel that was put together to implement that judgment. And one of them was the audited 2 years audited account of this local government. Until now, we understand that, in fact, sometimes in the whole state, no one has submitted that audited account. And some people are now saying, look, perhaps that itself is now a loophole rather than, something that was supposed to help in the process, but it's now becoming a loophole that the governors can take advantage of to say, we are still waiting, we're still auditing, our accounts.
Well, I've told you very precisely that those issues are more legal than administrative. Administrative processes is not going to solve the problem. It's the law that will solve the problem. And I've assured you that in the National Assembly, we're already looking at the various things that are hindering the full autonomy.
But are those conditions necessary? Shouldn't we have just gone straight to implementation and let's begin from where we are and leave what has happened, behind?
No. What I want to let you know is that I've told you there is a difference between a judgment and its implementation. The Bible says that a man is the head of the home. And everybody at a point will say, oh, I'm your husband. I should dictate. But then the wife will tell you, I'm the neck. Without the neck, the head cannot move. So if the neck conditions you to a status quo, or to a standstill, what will you do? So there is interdependency in terms of relationship, whether local, state, or national. So in that interdependency of relationship, we will continue to define each person's role, each tier's role, until when we get to the actual point. So, and like I've told you, law is not absolute. Law is never absolute. We have been amending a lot of acts that have been passed so many years ago because the society life itself is dynamic, and the dynamism of life will necessitate adjustments and innovations. And when any society that remains static will not move forward. So no matter how perfect you think a law that was made 2 years ago, a year ago will be, in the preceding years, there have been necessities for amendments. And so amendments will keep on coming as long as life lives, as long as life is available to all of us. So don't let us dwell too much on the failure of the inability of government to totally implement the autonomy of local government. The autonomy itself has its own shortcomings. One, you have to look at the caliber of people who runs councils at the local authority. It's only now that people who are well educated are beginning to take interest in running the councils. We were looking forward to when our professors, the high ups there will leave the national government and come and take over local governance. We must not leave the local governance only for the hop or lawyers. We must not leave it for just anybody anyhow. So we have all concentrated too much on national government, on governorship, on presidency.
Will you be willing to come leave the House of Representatives to take
Why
up
not
the local
if
government?
not? Honorable Hupe was a member of the National Assembly, was a member of the Federal House of Representatives. Years back, just immediate, the penultimate House of Representatives. Today, he's running election to run Badagry local government. So what is wrong? You need experience. You need people who have made impact in society. You need even people who have done well in businesses, who have run their businesses, who have succeeded. You need quality people in the grassroots governance. So we must all have a rethink about how we perceive local authorities. Look at the quantum of money that goes on to local government today. It requires high level of managerial ability. And so, except people who have the managerial ability are there, you continue to suffer reigns of, mediocres. So for me, I'll be willing. Why not if not? So for us to move forward, we must understand that the law is made for man, not the man for the law. When laws are made, because it is for us as people, we must also think of implementing that law in a manner that does not offend our sensibility, that does not offend our livelihood. So laws are not static. So the autonomy, like you have said, is not the major problems of the local government. Quality leadership, participatory democracy, you understand what I'm saying? Ability to also pay necessary dues that are necessary to the local government. How many local governments can generate enough revenue to run their councils? Everybody wants to go to
states not
heaven.
taking up that responsibility, because when you look at the responsibility of local government, sometimes states have encroached, into those responsibilities when it comes to issues around collection of levies from markets. You find out that in states, some states, well, you're shaking your head because you are from Lagos State.
Because I was a former local government chairman, so I understand what you're saying.
You are in one state, right? It might have been different from you.
You're generalizing.
You might have been different. It might have been different for you.
You could have said some. Then I might not have shaken my head.
Well, in some states, some governors have taken up that responsibility.
See,
where even waste disposal.
So I agree with
now
you. See,
in some states,
I agree with you.
State responsibility. This is supposed to be
as
local
a lawmaker,
responsibilities.
I agree with you. There has been so much incursion into the local government controls, and what they are supposed to do. You are not lying. You are saying the obvious facts. But then, why do states encroach in local government autonomy in terms of some responsibilities? Have you forgotten? Before Ashwaji became governor of Lagos State, there were heaps of refuse everywhere. And even as at then, till now, it's still the responsibility of the local authority. But then, today, you cannot see such a problem any longer, because sometimes they lack the capacity to implement some of those laws. And so what you call incursion, it's not an incursion, it's a collaboration. Because there is no running away from the fact that today, the state has the LOMA, which manages the refuse disposal in Lagos State. Of course, it's a state creation. But then what led us into it? Are we better off? So I don't call it incursion, it's collaboration. Where there is a failure of a particular system, the other system collaborates.
It's also a means of revenue generation, isn't it? And that revenue does go to the state, does it not? And not the local government.
That's not how it happens. He will tell you.
So how,
when it's collected, let me tell you, I had also been in cabinet of Lagos State for almost up to about 8 years. I was a member of cabinet of this state, and I was in charge of rural development. And I can tell you that I know a bit, if not much, of what happened and what is happening. What I'm telling you is that when those revenues are collected, for instance, the signage law, can give you specificity. The signage law, they are collected on behalf of the entire local government and is shared. The local government takes their own share. The state that has the machinery to collect takes its own share. And so that's how it's done.
That's for Lagos State.
That's for Lagos State. So I can tell you vividly about Lagos State. So it's not as if they took over the entire responsibility and then dumped the councils. And then the councils also found out that when they were collecting, they were not able to collect. Maybe because they are so close to the people. Because let me tell you, the law is easier to make than to implement. The implementation of the law is more costlier than making the law. The law says you should not steal. But then the truth of the matter is that when you apprehend a thief, the process of even bringing the thief to judgment creates another problem. And so the cost at which you even implement the punishment of somebody who has committed an offense is more than the offense committed. So these are challenges, but it's an evolving society. It's an evolving society. We'll get there. We'll continue to fine tune, we'll continue to correct, we'll continue to until we'll get there.
All right, so Doctor raised a very important point, which has stayed in my head for a while. I saw you nodding as he was talking about it. Two issues. One of them is the administrative capacity at that level to even manage some of these funds and just the issues that arise within in the grassroots. Another is the kind and quality of leadership at that level. I'm speaking with you, but and we can have a conversation. But there are some local governments in some states that chairmen and chairpersons in some states you speak with, and it's quite difficult to even have a conversation. And you're wondering. I mean,
how did they get there?
First question, and then how do you then grasp, just basic understanding of the issues and being able to the strategy to deal with them. And that itself is a challenge, isn't it?
Well, I'll first of all say that every society determines the kind of leadership they get, either for good or for bad. Society will determine that. Now, you mentioned about collection of revenue from the markets. The local government collect the market revenue, not the state government. That's why I shook my head. It's not the state government. The local government collects revenue from the market and from the parks, right? Now, he spoke about collaboration. There's nothing bad in collaborating in order to develop capacity, right? So that you can speed up the job process. It does not also stop you from doing other things along that collaboration. And I'll give you an example. When I was chairman of local government, I moved of a local government in 2008. I came in at 38 years of age as at that time. I found out that in the month of October 30th, in that month, the revenue that was given to me was 30,000 naira, right? I did not sit down. We organized an economic summit. We also organized various consultative meetings to discuss with these revenue points and the community on the need to increase the revenue and block leakages. And I brought them in. Now, we collaborated with Alpha Beta. And at a point, we were generating 24 million naira per month from 30,000 that I netted. Now, there's an ongoing collaboration with LOMA to clean the environment. And thank God, the head of LOMA is now a commissioner for environment in Ogun State, Mr. Oresonya. And we discussed that, look, you guys are doing this. We want to do it. And I said, there's nothing stopping you guys. So I went to Tata. I bought a big dumper, a big truck, right? We also bought bowhead. we bought swamp boogies, and I used the bylaw to create what was called the environmental rangers that sealed drainages and or whatnot. Then we created a green club that were planting trees, nurturing trees, and all that. Then I employed 600 cleaners and put it across various wards, and also employed over 1,000 non-pensionable workers that were paid from the bank so that it becomes accounted for. We also had to create revenue officers that we engaged, and they were trained, and partly by Alpha Beta and all that, and we branded them. And that branding is what the neighborhood poor people are using today, because I bought them bikes, branded with uniform, backpacks and all that, and reduced a lot of things. And we also got doctors from the community, right? Retiree doctors. We met with the NYSC to post doctors to us and all that. Then we bought vehicles for the police, divisional police officer, brand new Hilux vehicles.
And all of these things that you did whilst you were in office,
yes,
are they still there today?
Frank Fanon once said, every generation, out of his own relative obscurity, will determine his mission, either to fulfill it or betray it. And I think that answers that question. Now, going forward, go to YouTube, right? Type Comrade Ayodele Adewale positive impact. You will see the thing we did, the first 2 years of our administration out of 6 years, and you can draw allusion from that.
I'm out of time, but I wanted to give you 30 seconds quickly. 30 seconds quickly to you, Doctor. Just tell us how you think, because people really have to get involved, right? And he's been saying that since. Get involved, come out and vote. It's participatory. How do we get people to get involved in local government, governance rather?
Very simple. We will continue to do political education. Media will continue to help us. But above all, the people themselves must be encouraged in terms of development to believe in the local system. And so we'll get more participation.
Thank you. I do apologize for cutting you, but we do have to go. It's time for the news. Comrade Ayodele Adewale, former chairman, Amuwodo of Local Government, Lagos State, and Dr. Kalejaiye Paul, member, Federal House of Representatives, at Jeremy Falodun Federal Constituency. Thank you, gentlemen, for speaking with us today.
Thank you for having us.
All right, that's Standpoint this week. Remember, you can watch the repeat